Hey there, modern math teacher Kristen here. And what if your students were as engaged in math as they are in filling out their March Madness brackets? Well, listen, you guys, March is one of the best times of the year to bring real world connections into your math classroom. From buzzer beaters to predictions, there are so many ways that you can use March Madness and college basketball to hook students, spark curiosity, and make learning feel more relevant. Today on the Modern Math Teachers Podcast, we're diving into how you can capitalize on major sporting events like the upcoming college basketball March Madness to create engaging, hands on math experiences. I'm going to share with you a few different ways that you can integrate these types of events into your math lessons, plus, introduce you to my brand new March Basketball Madness project that brings right triangle trigonometry to life. Are you up for it? Let's do this. Now, first up, let's talk for a minute. Why should we use current events like March Madness in our math classes? So, as a very proud Michigan State University Spartan alum, I'm a little bit embarrassed to tell you that I never once went to our basketball games. I know, Izzo is the winningest coach in Big Ten history, and I love all things MSU. But I never actually went to one of the games. And the only time I've been at the Breslin Center is for my own graduation or my kids' graduations. And um, despite that fact, I wasn't super excited to go and watch basketball. But when I was on campus, I was always caught up in all of the hoopla every March. And why is that? That's because everywhere I went, all of the students were abuzz with excitement. I was constantly being inundated with my classmates talking to me about who's in our bracket and what the matchups are and how far they think we're going to go and who's doing what and which players they think are going to be key factors in our game and all of this. I was constantly being surrounded just like our students are constantly being surrounded with media showcasing events for them, right? So I was on campus getting this in real life. Our students are getting this on all their different media platforms, whether they're excited about the different award seasons going on, like the Academy Awards, or they are talking all a buzz about Four Nations hockey tournament or the spring training events that have just started for baseball. And of course, this basketball madness that is about to ensue. When you're able to tie current events or popular sporting events into math class, it is one of the easiest ways that you can boost engagement. Okay. Your students are going to naturally be interested in what's trending and what they're constantly being surrounded by. So you are capitalizing on that. You're also going to make learning relevant. And we are all about real, relevant, and rigorous here. So they see math in action outside of the classroom, and you can help them make that connection. Your students are also going to be able to you can not they're going to be able to they're going to be able to engage, there we go, in deeper thinking. So your sports, all sports, involve probability, statistics, physics, geometry, and more, all ways that you can show that mathematics is part of this integrated and interconnected world, giving them again that relevance and having them explore those ideas deeper. So even if your students aren't into basketball, just like I wasn't super into basketball, they're going to know what March Madness is. They're going to be surrounded by it. And we can use this as an opportunity to spark curiosity and engagement in meaningful ways. So let's talk about a couple ways you can do this. Way number one, I want you to consider using some data talks, using recent scores or headlines. Data talks are a great way to start off your classroom because they give you an opportunity to show statistics that are happening in real life and have a conversation about it. We know that data literacy is something that our students need to be developing so that they're going to be successful in their post secondary careers. No matter what it is, they're going to need some form of statistics. So using these data talks gives us an opportunity to look at the statistics, talk about it, and make inferences from them. You can use some live March Madness stats to engage your students in some data analysis, making them better at understanding the trends, making predictions. You can have students look at win probabilities, scoring trends, and upsets to make some new predictions about what's going to happen in the next game. You can even use Google Trends. It's a great tool to track how team popularity shifts throughout the tournament. There's really great graphs that can spark great discussion for your students. So I would love for you to try this. Pick an exciting game from the night before and pull up the box score for it, okay? And then you're going to have your students discuss which stats mattered most for that win or loss. A great way to engage your students in that math discourse, get them looking at the statistics, whether or not you're focused on stats in your class at this exact moment. It's a great opportunity to bring those real world applications to life. Okay. Speaking of ways to kick off class, let's talk about doing some warm ups. You know from a few episodes ago that I have been in love with warm ups for the past 2 years. And using some sort of problem of a day or a warm up is a great opportunity to engage your students in critical thinking and boost that rigor, right? So you can switch up your daily routine from whatever warm ups you're normally doing, whether that's like preview review problems or just some rote practice on converting logarithms to exponential form, because I've definitely been working on that for a few weeks. And you can now bring in some basketball themed warm ups. Okay. You can introduce some probability based problems related to free throws, 3 pointers, game winning shots. In fact, I have some basketball themed warm ups, just like I had some for the Super Bowl. These March ones focus on basic probability concepts, making them a really fun review of essential skills while still catching on to that basketball fever. So, these would be great if you are teaching basic probability in middle school, or if you are trying to review it. A great way to sneak in just a little bit of review before the upcoming test season, SAT, PSAT, that we're all about to hit. Okay. So, you can also just in general try to incorporate some probability by trying this. You can use a quick probability question like, if a player makes 75% of their free throws, what's the probability that they'll make both shots after a foul? Okay. So probability is a great way to do that. If you don't want to have to think about it yourself and you want those basketball themed word problems I mentioned, your students need a review, I'm going to make sure to link that here in the show notes for you. Okay. Beyond word problems of the day and using those data talks to engage in mathematical discourse, you could also think of some really fun hands on real world math with basketball. Whether you want to look at quadratics in basketball. I love this. I love the Rocket Project for quadratics, but bringing in basketball is another great way for students to understand parabolic motion. Whether you're just having your students shoot paper basketballs and analyze the parabolic motion of their shots, or you're having them go to the gym, record a quick video and talk about the mathematics behind it. They can use some of the same ideas that we use in the Rocket Project to time their launch and their land and come up with parabolic models, quadratic models for it. So many fun ways to get quadratics to tie into basketball. Okay. So that's great for algebra teachers, but what about our geometry teachers, or they're constantly being left out, right? We're always talking about stats and probability and now quadratics with this, but geometry teachers have a special place in this too, which is exciting. Geometry teachers can go ahead and study the court's layout. You can look at the angles, the symmetry, the distances between key areas. You can look at this in terms of perimeter and area. You can look at geometric probability based on different locations. Lots of really cool ways that geometry teachers can connect basketball to geometry, which is awesome. You can also, of course, look at physics and shooting angles. You can explore the geometry behind the best shooting angles for different shots on the court, and where, a 2 pointer is versus a 3 pointer, how far away that is, what the distance looks like, all of those things. Okay. So, something that you could do with this, if you don't have time to just do that in the classroom right away, you could also just talk to your students about these and ask them, like, why do players shoot from certain angles? And can we use mathematics to find the best shot location? Maybe you can go to your own gym and do this and get real hands on in real world with it, right? Okay. So, speaking of getting hands on and geometry and all of this, I'm super excited to introduce you guys to a March Math Madness geometry, trigonometry of basketball project. It's a super exciting one, and I'm so excited to share this with you. So, it is March Basketball Madness Project, and it's a hands on way for your students to apply right triangle trigonometry to a real world basket scenario. So, basket, real world basketball scenario. Oh my gosh, guys, I can talk. Okay, so what your students are going to do, they're going to design a scaled down basketball court using geometry and measurement skills. So this is great if you've just studied similarity. It's a really great review for that. Then they're going to plot 5 different places for their players to take shots from, okay? And they're going to use Pythagorean theorem and trig to calculate the distance and the shot angle that they need to make. They're going to be able to apply real world math to understand why players shoot from specific locations on the court. Now, I usually only post projects that I've already done with my students, but this is a brand new one that I released this year. So I had to get my hands on this for myself. And just last week, I had so much fun going through this. I'm really excited to try it out in the classroom, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think. It was a lot of fun going through and drafting out my court, figuring out what scale factor was going to make the most sense for me. And then looking at where I would have my different players taking their shots from. And I was really shocked to see the different angles and distances, the way that that worked out along the basketball court. So, as I mentioned, I'm not a huge basketball fan. So, this project really caught my attention at looking at the layout and the geometry behind it. And so, even if your students aren't huge basketball fans, they're going to have a great time with that. Now, this project has an editable rubric in there because, I typically score just based on the mathematics behind it, but there is a really great opportunity for your students to engage in some creativity. So, I'm looking at, if you're not watching on YouTube, I am looking at this in my hands right now, and I was going to create Breslin Center, and I was going to create our basketball court. And when I looked at it, I saw that it was supposed to have the Spartan helmet on it. And guys, I am not an artiste. So I went back to that classic line S that we used to do back in the middle school days. And sneak peek, if you're here on YouTube, it's not great, but it is what it is. And so if you want to encourage your students who are super into it to go ahead and design that court and add in specific elements, maybe they want to support their favorite team with this and show it off. That would be a really cool way to display mathematics content for your students to see. You could put it up in the hallway. You could have students share, a little bit about their favorite team, a great way to connect with them. So just so many ways. So it is an editable rubric in there. So you can go ahead and add a few points in for that creativity if that's something you are looking to do. So I designed this to be perfect for geometry and algebra 2 students, because I've taught algebra 1 geometry and algebra 2, and it's really a great all encompassing review for geometry students who have just learned about similarity and right triangles, Pythagorean theorem, and SOHCAHTOA. So it's a great way to put all of those pieces together in individual pages within this project. So your students are going to be able to see how all of those connect together. Super great. Okay. Then for your algebra 2 students, my students are going to be learning trig functions, but it's a great opportunity for me to review right triangle trig and those basics. So could definitely be used by either classroom. I've got algebra 2 students this year, and that's what I plan on doing with them. So yeah, so super flexible. I'm going to link that here in the show notes. I really hope that you get it, and then you let me know how it goes in your classroom, especially if you're using it with geometry. I'd love to hear how it goes with geo kids, and I'd love to hear how it goes with other algebra 2 kids. Okay. All right, back to the lab again, as Eminem would say. Let's talk about some quick action we can take this week to make sure that we are capitalizing on the March Math Madness in our classroom. So, 3 things you can do no matter what. If you've got just a few minutes, try engaging your students in a March Madness data talk based on recent scores that you can see from Google. So, pull up a game from the night before, an exciting game, and engage your students in a conversation about that. If you've got a few more minutes than that, you might want to consider using basketball themed warm ups all throughout the week to capitalize on student interest and to engage your students in a little bit of probability. And if you've got a little bit more time than that, I'm thinking 1 to 2 class periods, you can go ahead and grab the basketball March Basketball Madness project from my TPT store. It's brand new. I'm just going to put it on sale for you guys right now so that you can grab it, try it out, see how it goes. So make sure that you grab those basketball themed warm ups and the brand new project if you don't want to have to do any of the work yourself. But as always, you can always create these things yourself. You, my friend, are the expert of your students and your classroom, and you know their interests better than I do. So feel free to create those on your own or grab the resources ready to go for you from my store, linked here in our show notes. All right, you guys, let's wrap this up. Now, March, you guys, is the perfect time to bring in some fresh real world math to your classroom. From data analysis to hands on projects, there are really so many ways that you can capitalize on the current events and trending topics to make your learning more meaningful for your students. And that's what I want you to do. Find ways to make math fun, enjoyable, and relatable to your students so they keep coming back and they keep sparking joy. Okay. So, as always, you guys keep finding some ways to make math real and engaging. Keep using what's happening in the world to engage those students. And as always, keep it real.